Welcome to Spinning Back Clique, where each week here at MMA Junkie, we take a spin through the biggest stories in MMA. And on today's episode, Johnny Walker was smooth and had a strong kick. But enough about the whiskey I had last night. PFL has 8 new tournament champions. Let's grade their season. RDR and Anthony Hernandez, recent winners of big fights. They will tangle in Vancouver in October. Hello, everyone. Gorgeous George here on the con, and look at the distinguished panel we have for you today. Goes from MMA Junkie Radio. He's back in Las Vegas, the fight capital of the world. Down in SoFla. What is SoFla? South Florida. Danny Segura checking in from the 305 in Miami. Farah Hanoun is our superstar overseas correspondent. She's in Morocco, Casablanca. Oh my God, keeping it really, really chic out there. And Goes is doubling up. He's going to be a producer as well as a panelist. He's on the ones and twos. Look, before we get started, I just ask one thing from you, and that's to like the video. Let's get it going. We'll worry about subscribing later. All right, guys. A few months ago, Farah Hanoun, Zhang Mingyang spoiled Anthony Smith's retirement party. 48 hours ago, Johnny Walker spoiled Zhang Mingyang's title contender party, I guess. Let's get your reaction first to the upset in Shanghai, China.
Yeah, upset. Well, I didn't expect it, to be honest. And I know a lot of people are going to say that Zhang Mingyang was not tested fair. All his wins have come by first round knockout. This was a step up in competition for him. No disrespect to Anthony Smith, obviously, at the tail end of his career. But the reality is the way we looked at this matchup was the fact that Johnny Walker hasn't had the best results as of late. He's been knocked out in his past couple of fights against Volkan Ozdemir and Magomed Ankalaev. And what does Zhang Mingyang do? He gets you out of there pretty quickly. So I think that's where everybody was going with it in terms of the prediction, at least myself. And look, Zhang Mingyang was doing well in the beginning of the fight. He just ended up getting caught with a couple of hard leg kicks, and Johnny Walker capitalized on the moment. Typical Johnny Walker start of him going out there trying to take down. Like, I respect that that's where he was going with the game plan, because that was smart, considering what Zhang Mingyang does and get you out of there quickly. You want to get him a little bit tired and push into the latter rounds. It was a 5-round fight. So right idea, not the best execution, but yeah, you can't have a Johnny Walker fight without one of those moments, right? But yeah, I mean, did good to adapt, and the leg kicks obviously worked. Both of them were exchanging leg kicks to the beginning of that second round, but it was Johnny Walker who ended up landing the harder ones and capitalizing on the finish. So good on him. I didn't expect this outcome, but man, he really, really, really needed this win. So good career saver for him.
I agree. Johnny Walker fights are car collisions. Win or lose for him. They're exciting, though. Fada, let me stay with you, though. Was this a huge win? More huge for Walker being the win, like you said, may have saved the career, or more of a huge loss for Zhang Mingyang and maybe the UFC? But you know what I'm saying? This guy, 1.4 billion in China. They got a PI there, you know, a lot of eyeballs. What do you think, man? Or could it just been both?
No, I think it was more important for Johnny Walker, because Zhang Mingyang, like, it's not like it's the deepest of divisions, light heavyweight, right? And the way he fights and the way he wins, it only takes a couple more for him to get right back in there. I know it's unfortunate for him that his biggest test, the headliner, the 5-round fight, granted, it didn't go 5-round fights. He failed in that test, but I think there are enough names at light heavyweight that aren't in the best points of their career, like a Johnny Walker, that he could be matched up against to get him right back in the win column. So I think Zhang Mingyang will be okay. For Johnny Walker, this was a very, very important fight for him, being on a 3-fight losing. And let's be real, the likelihood if he lost to Zhang Mingyang probably would have been by finish, right? So 3 knockout losses in a row, early ones, was not going to be good for him. Granted, I know he's fought really good competition, fought Magomed Ankalaev twice, Jamal Hill, former champion and whatnot. But a lot of his losses have come by knockout. So another one would have been really detrimental. And he's made those changes. He talked to you guys about it, like going to Extreme Couture, trying to turn his career around. Anytime a fighter will make all these changes and different moves and not get an outcome out of it at the end, it crushes your morale, is what I'm trying to say. So good for him that after making all those changes that he was very confident were going to help him turn his career around, have actually paid dividends.
Plus, he's like 6'6", looks like a mule, man. He probably saves about $3,000 in food too over at the PI. Great move for him in Vegas. Goes, listen, man. Do you remember? I think it was Kit Cope called Extreme Couture like 15 years ago, MMA Rehab, where a lot of guys would go there to revive their career. And that's kind of what Johnny did. And he kind of took on one of the best coaches in the game who knows how to protect his deficiencies and maximize his strengths.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's not every day that you walk into enemy territory like that and you face a fighter who is kind of meant to be showcased, right? You walk out of there with a W. That's not easy to do. I think Johnny Walker does deserve his flowers, not just for the fight, but what he's done to kind of turn things around and get his career where it's at now. He deserves a lot of praise for that. And what I like about the game plan was he went to wrestling and it didn't pay out, but he introduced the threat of it. And I think sometimes fighters forget that, when you introduce the threat of the wrestling, your opponent has to adapt to that. I think Jean kind of got caught off guard a little bit with that, and I think he did have to adapt to that. Then sticking to that calf kick, and the fight didn't always go Johnny's way. I mean, there were moments where he did get tagged. They hit each other with some pretty good shots, but his patience, I thought, was very interesting in that fight. I think he just did a really good job considering where he was at and, the crowd just coming after you. Maybe that's what he needed. Maybe some of these kicks that he's taken in his career, I think maybe that's what he needed to finally turn things around. But if this type of Johnny Walker shows up to every fight, I think he can turn things around here in his career.
He's a project, man. Big dude for sure. Let's see if he can turn it around. All right, Danny, let's get your reaction. You were actually giving us the play-by-play, late night for you, a lot of coffee, I'm sure, consumed. But what were your thoughts as this fight was unfolding? It was pretty fun.
Yeah, I was extremely impressed with Johnny, and I was very disappointed with Zhang. As you said, GG, this was supposed to be a showcase fight for Zhang to go out there and get a big knockout win in front of his people, main event, and that did not happen. Quite the opposite. So very disappointed on him. I thought he was going to be able to put away Walker. I'm not too sold on Walker yet. I know I don't want to disrespect the guy nor avoid giving him his flowers for this victory because it was certainly an impressive one and one that I didn't expect. But that's only one fight. Let's see how he's able to perform in this next couple fights under Extreme Couture. I'm not really sold that there's maybe a comeback here for him. But we'll see. There's certainly a base for it now with this victory. And yeah, big upset win. I did not expect Johnny Walker at all to win in the fashion that he did. And yeah, man, light heavyweight can't have anything good. Just when you had like an interesting contender with a whole country behind him, kind of rising up, 3 back-to-back performance of the night bonuses, here comes Johnny Walker and spoils the party. So, yeah, rough night for the light heavyweight division. Rough night for Zhang. Great night for Johnny Walker.
My follow-up to you, Danny, was going to be, can Walker get back into title contention? You said you need a fight or more to see if this is for real. But he also does have a past where he has been pretty violent, right? As of right now, you're just saying, no, I don't think he'll be champ. Maybe I should just be direct with the question. You think he'll be a champ one day?
I don't know. I don't know. Something that I've realized over the last couple of years is that sometimes we got to be a little bit careful in discarding guys and their chances of becoming champion. Like, you really never know, right? You could say it's unlikely, but you really never know. That's the furthest you can take it. So I would be surprised if he does become champion, but I don't want to completely shut the doors on him because, as you said, he did move to Extreme Couture. He is trying something new. As Goes mentioned, there was that threat of the takedown as well. It didn't go well for him, but at least there was a different approach to Johnny Walker's game. We'll see if he can build on that. And then over the course of the next few fights, maybe we get a better gauge. So I just think it's too early to tell, given that he just snapped his 2-fight losing streak. I do still have concerns about that chin. You can change your style, pick up new skills, but you can't really do a whole lot about that chin besides improve your striking defense. And we know how light heavyweight, those guys are pretty much heavyweights, right? They're big guys walking around a big weight with big power. So I want to wait and see. I don't want to say no. I don't want to say yes. Certainly something interesting there for Johnny Walker, but I think it'd be too premature to say that, he's going to be champion or fight for a belt.
Fada, I want to ask you about Zhang's upside. You know, I don't know how harsh we can be on him in this fight. I mean, it was pretty tailor-made for him in China and against a fighter who's been about a 500 fighter in big fights, kind of maybe lost more of the big fights, to be honest. But check out this comment from Dana White Boy in the chat. He says, Zhang Frodchuk. I'm not picking on the guy. I encourage you all to give us questions and comments. And you're a fan, you paid your money, go for it, right? But I've been hearing a lot of that this weekend, and I think it's a bit harsh. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, because at the end of the day, if he followed the narrative of what would he look like out of the first round, is he going to gas out? If it was that type of performance where, let's say, for example, he came out like a bat out of hell in round one, didn't get the finish, started slowing down, completely gassed out, looked tired, like, you know, then maybe you can say that. He got caught. He got caught with a horrid leg kick that maybe hit the peroneal nerve or whatnot. Like, he got caught, and Johnny Walker capitalized, and he finished him. Like, Johnny Walker's dangerous. He finishes fights too. So I think it's a little, and Zhang was looking good in the beginning of the fight. So I think it's a little premature to say that he got fraud checked because he got caught. So I'm not ready to draw that conclusion. It's just more of he missed out on a really big opportunity. That's what it is, and it happens. It's the fight game.
Mm-hmm. But I think he can come back, honestly. He's got like all the intangibles. He's got some charisma. He started off slow in that interview that you referenced with Goz and I was telling Goz I thought I owed him some money or something. Finally, he started smiling and connecting. But I'm telling you, this guy could be as big as Zhang Weili. You know, he's got to get to that title and all that, but he's got a country behind him and I think a promotion that's willing to back him. We'll see. All right. Also, chat. We're going to have a Q&A at the end, all right? We're going to have about 5-10 minutes, at least around that, to answer your questions. So get them in regarding this topic or any of the other couple of topics that we have your way. We're going to discuss their PFL, their season as well, and go over some recent fight bookings. And I also don't want to forget, but I'll probably say this at the end too, we won't be on next week because of Labor Day here in the United States. However, a few of us may push for a Q&A. Don't hold us to that. That way we just, you know, you guys can rely on that content that we come at you live every Monday morning here on the West Coast and noontime or around 11 a.m. like we've been starting lately for the East Coast. All right, continuing on.
Hey, Joey.
Yeah,
really quick. I just want to say something because there's something in the chat here that I think can maybe put a bow on what we're actually trying to convey here.
Okay.
Anshul Jubilee's gas station says, if they fought again next month, I would still pick Zhang.
Ooh,
that's a good question because I think we all have given Johnny Walker his flowers, right, in this fight. But would we pick him if they rematched again? I think that would kind of give us a better gauge of where we actually think he is. And I'm not gonna lie, I think I actually agree with this guy. I might still take Zhang.
I'd take Walker. How about you, Danny?
I don't know. I think I might take Walker. I didn't like what I saw from Zhang. I kind of felt like the moment got to him, and yeah, I don't know. He did say it himself. I don't know if it was with you guys, but he did have a quote, something like, "Everyone that beats Johnny Walker, like, you know, is championship material." He didn't beat him, so I'm gonna go with the Brazilian. I'm gonna go with Walker.
Fada,
and this time he gets a takedown. How about that?
All right, Fada, your thoughts?
Danny using his own words against him. I think I'd still go with Zhang. Based off of what I saw in round one, I didn't like Johnny Walker's body language, the way he was circling away and stuff. I think I would have picked. I'd pick Zhang.
Did you notice Goz's fist bump there?
Mm-hmm. See if she gets it right.
All right. She must not fist bump after she hits those threes on the court. She just says, "Nope, that's me." Nope. She just goes back and plays defense. All right. Another comment I saw in the chat, and again, it was the same guy, Dana White. Boy, he said, could there have been a pre-existing injury? I also thought I told Goz on MMA Junkie Radio, or maybe he hit that peroneal nerve. We just didn't see, because usually the foot flops, or wait, the ankle flops kind of, but he kind of went down, and so we really didn't get an answer towards the end. It didn't look like it, but yeah, I wonder if there may have been something there, or if he just cracked a spot that hurt, you know, because he went down, man. And I'm telling you, guys, Johnny Walker's all of 6'6". I've seen him a few times. He's come to the studio. I've seen him at Extreme, and I'm just like, damn. Like, I wonder if he would almost be better off committing to heavyweight. You know, kind of like what's the British guy from Bellator that actually had some really great ground and pound late in his career? Do you guys remember?
Linton Vassell.
Yeah. Oh my God, that dude, same thing, was a big dude, and
You have to pack on some muscle though.
yeah,
Onto
exactly.
that frame. Yeah.
All right, let's get to Sterling and Ortega. Goes, what was your reaction? I just kind of want to say, blah. I mean, what happened to Ortega? He barely showed. He started with the weigh-in. You know, that was a colossal mess up. Cost him some money. I think some kind of respect, and then the fight, the haircut. I mean, he got nothing right.
Yeah, man. I mean, look, honestly, wasn't the most entertaining of fights, and I'll be honest, maybe watching it, I was a little jaded just because of what went down days before. It just looked like you see Brian Ortega and the way he's moving around, and you think, man, should this guy be fighting? Like, this does not look good. But it's a very, very weak card. Imagine if you take that fight off, what it does to that card, and it kind of transpired throughout the fight, right? He looked very sluggish. He just didn't really have what he's had before in other fights. So every shot that was landing for Aljamain, just seeing how much quicker he was and how much more into the fight he was, I couldn't help but think, should this guy even be here? And I don't know, man. Like that fight to me, I think Aljamain Sterling did what he had to do to get the win, but sometimes that's maybe where the criticism comes from the higher ups, the matchmakers, Dana White, is they feel like maybe if he put his foot on the gas a little bit, he could get the finish. Here, I feel like he just did enough to win, and Brian Ortega, just that was not a good showing. He lost 2 fights, right? The one against the scale and the one against Aljamain Sterling.
Sterling didn't get a bonus because he was dominant, but he might have picked up 50 G's just from getting Ortega's money from not making the weigh-ins. Danny, your thoughts on this co-main event that just kind of didn't work out, I think, how everyone thought it might. You know, it's a nice appetizer for the main event.
Yeah, it was a very boring fight, and you thought maybe it could be a little bit boring, but maybe we see some of the high-level grappling, obviously keeping in mind both these guys' backgrounds. But it was just a striking battle, and there wasn't a ton landed, and yeah, it just wasn't a great fight. But I think this highlights kind of both of these guys' current problems, right? Like Aljamain, very good fighter, former champion. I mean, the guy is certainly legit. You can't dispute that, but he's just not exciting, and he just doesn't really connect with the fan base like other fighters do. So, like, you know, you heard him call out there for Volkanovski, but like, how many fans are getting behind that? I didn't see many. And then with Ortega, like, it's kind of worrisome, right? Like, this whole fight, we just highlighted his main issues. He's fighting in a weight class, I think, that he outgrew at this point. You know, this isn't the first time that he's had trouble making 145, and he looked lifeless out there. He, compared to the previous versions that we've seen of him, it's night and day. He just looks like a completely different fighter. I wonder if that's gone and there's just nothing you can do to get that back, because he does have a crazy amount of mileage, or if maybe just going up to 155 and staying there actually might be able to bring some of that back. So yeah, just horrible fight. And I don't think either guy here won much, to be honest. Besides an unofficial win, I don't think either guy won leaving this event.
What do you want next for Sterling, Fada?
Not a title shot. I think obviously after what Lerone Murphy did, I think that's pretty easy. And even Volkanovski said no brainer for Lerone Murphy. I don't think he thought Sterling could steal that title shot away from him. What do I want? Well, looking at the chat here, Angelo Jubilee's gas station says Aljo versus the loser of Lopez versus Silva or Yair next. Yeah, I like Yair Rodriguez. That's not a bad shout. He does deserve to move a step forward towards the title. It might not have been the most spectacular win, but at the end of the day, he beat Calvin Kattar, had that close loss to Movsar Evloev, which was a good showing, and then now he's back in the win column over a former title challenger. So he definitely deserves to move forward. So yeah, I think Yair is a good shout. If it is indeed Lerone Murphy getting the title shot against Volk, I like that shout. I think Yair is a good fight.
Goes, is Ortega shot, or should he just go to lightweight and figure things out there?
I think it might be even worse up there, man. I mean, those guys, the energy that they bring every fight. His next fight is against the man in the mirror, right? He's got to figure out what's going on with him, because a lot of wear and tear on him at this point. Maybe possibly having to go up a division. Your whole body chemistry has to change. He has to do what's best for him. But right now, for me, it seems like he lacks a lot of explosiveness, and it kind of just seems like he doesn't want to be there.
Karate Ted Toon says Ortega has lost his drive or mojo. It seems he should just consider doing grappling matches. I don't know. I think the scale had a lot to do with it, and I just think 55, but grow into that body at 55. He's getting a little softer, each time, and it looks unmotivated. Remember the title fight against Max? Max had to fix his hands in the middle of the fight. Like, he checked out of the fight too. I think a lot of this may be up here. A lot of fighters, even the successful ones, even the legends, have turned to sports psychologists. Maybe that's what it is, but he's got to kickstart things somehow, because that was an awful showing out there. Let's get to the featured fight of the night, where Sergey Pavlovich defeated Waldo Cortez Acosta. Danny, I know you've been a big WCA guy. He represented, because Pavlovich is no joke. He's been top 5 for like the last 3 to 5 years. Your thoughts on that fight?
It played out the way I thought it was gonna play out. I know a lot of people were like, "Oh, there's no way this will go to a distance," but I actually picked Waldo to win by decision. That's what I thought would happen, and I thought it was a close fight. I did judge it for Pavlovich 29-28. I thought that Waldo had a very respectable showing. I didn't think it was the most exciting fight out there, but it wasn't a bad fight. His job looked good. His chin looked great. Pavlovich packs tons of power and landed clean multiple times. And yet, Waldo wasn't really taking a step back and was there to face the heat. All in all, it was a fine fight. I don't think it was anything to rave about. And I think Waldo needs more experience. He's a little bit green, but I think there's a lot to work with there. And as far as Pavlovich, you kind of would want him to get like a big finish, right? In order to kind of thrill us a little bit and get us excited for a potential title shot. Again, I don't know how many people are trying to get that man to a title fight, but hey, at least he's got some history in the division. That power has to still be there somewhere, even though it hasn't been present in his last few fights. And maybe in a couple fights or maybe one more fight, a really good one. Maybe he's fighting for the title again.
I won't compare him to Drago from Rocky, but I always felt like because of the power and a little bit of the look, like maybe that guy could grow into that role, back in the day. I thought that like 5 years ago. It probably sounds silly now, but all right. Fada, your thoughts? We got Gunn versus Aspinall, so everyone should start making their case for next, right? This was Pavlovich's chance. He won, but he didn't have a statement win.
Yeah, but there isn't too much to compete with at heavyweight. I think here it just seems like Sergey's lost a bit of his aura, right? He used to go out there and steamroll everybody, and Waldo was not afraid to trade with him. He was standing and trading with him. That's not what we usually see from guys who fight Pavlovich, just because of the array of the first round knockouts that he's had. I think it was 6 in a row at some point or whatnot. But especially after like the quick loss to Aspinall was fine. We all know how good Aspinall is, but I think it was the loss to Volkov that really made people just not look at him as invincible. Then he has a decision win and now another decision win. And it's not necessarily because the competition is getting higher. You know what I mean? Like, it's not one of those rising prospects where once a competition got higher, his results have changed. So I mean, it's a win. He's on a 2-fight winning streak, and he doesn't have too much to compete with at heavyweight. So the good news for him is whoever he's booked against to fight next, if he can get a knockout there or a statement win there, or at least like I don't know. This was not bad. Like, I would say this was somewhat exciting. It was a decent fight, but I think if he just needs like one statement win to really get into the picture. There isn't too much going on at heavyweight. Like, we don't even know what happens past Aspinall and Gan, right? So, we've got that fight in Abu Dhabi between Almeida and Volkov, but
Jones at the White House. We all know that's going down.
Hey, to be fair, in this fight, like they both showed up. They're both tough SOBs, and they hit each other with shots that I think would have put out most heavyweights. Like, they hit each other with very clean shots. They're just both really tough, man.
Yeah.
I think you guys are right. I probably just held him to his own high ceiling that he created for himself, and I'm not being fair because Waldo's better than I thought too. Shout out to Danny for actually picking him on the stat picks. Danny, do you know off the top of your head, were you the only one, or were there others that believed in?
Probably, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I didn't check everyone's picks, but I mean, it was totally fair to go with Sergey, and in the end, it was the right choice, right? He clearly won that fight. But I thought Waldo, look, if he would have, it was a close fight. I think if he would have done just a little bit more in one of those rounds, in like the third round. I think he could have gotten to 29-28. But yeah, it was a close fight.
If I gave you 50K, would you change your name to Waldo Segura? I'm just curious.
Waldo Segura.
For 5 years, your license, your passport, we address you that way.
50K, huh?
Yeah.
5 years.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Really?
Yeah. Put a down payment real quick on a rundown apartment here in Miami.
Miami's expensive, man. That might just cover your homeowner's insurance. All right, guys, give me another highlight from the event in Shanghai. Goes.
Dawkins is an assassin, man.
Oh,
Pereira is not easy to find. You know, he's got a lot
know.
of movement, and to be able to check him out like that was pretty impressive.
Another egg on my forehead. I got that one wrong. Fada, how about you? Another highlight from UFC Shanghai.
Charles Johnson, man, like this guy's turned into a bit of a prospect killer. He has that knockout over Joshua Van that's aged very well, and now upsetting Lonnie Kavanaugh. He's just tough. He never goes away. He's constantly underestimated. He's, I think, won 5 of his past 6 now. And I remember when he made his debut in London against Mokaev, like this guy has fought everybody. He's down to fight anybody and everybody, anytime, any place, anywhere. And I remember I interviewed him twice, actually, during that fight week. He was just so eager to do some media and get his name and his message out there. So I've always appreciated his energy, and he lives the life of a fighter, and he's really about that life. So was happy for him. Lonnie Kavanaugh looked good as well, just made a silly mistake, putting his hands down, coming out of the pocket. That was a bit of a rookie mistake, and a mistake I'm sure he's going to look back on and be very disappointed with. But outside of that, he looked good. But it was, Charles Johnson just showing that he's just doesn't go away. I mean, this guy was on a 3-fight losing streak at one point, and I'm glad the UFC kept him around, and he's on quite the run right now.
2 things. Anyone that just joined the show live, we're live every Monday, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, for the next few months because of Dana White Contender Series weigh-ins, which start immediately after us. But that's usually our start time, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. But for now, just focus on 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. We unpack the biggest stories of the week, go over the results, fight bookings, things like that. We still got over half an hour to go. So hit the like, share with somebody that you know is an MMA fan that doesn't know about spinning back click. We would greatly appreciate it. Waldo Segura, ahora tú. Give me another highlight.
I'm gonna go with Waldo. I got a shot. I'm just kidding. No, I'm gonna shout out Rong Zhu because I was a bit of a hater on the guy when he first joined the UFC. He missed weight in 2 out of his 3 fights. He dyed his hair blue and kind of was like taunting and showboating and was losing, and he kind of looked a bit like an asshole, to be honest. But he was just 21 years of age, and I kind of forgot about that. He was born in the 2000. He goes back to the regional scene, fights at Road FC and Road to the UFC, sorry, and then is able to return to the UFC, and now has picked up 2 wins. And I thought against Austin Hubbard, he looked matured, he looked experienced, he looked like he learned from his previous mistakes. He was ripped, his weight was on point, his fight management was great. And he's back in the UFC at just 25 years of age. I do think this guy's got potential, and I'm glad that the things that I kind of criticized him for in his first UFC run, they're now being taken care of here upon his return. So, I like how he looked against Hubbard, and I like kind of his potential and where he's going.
Sounds good. I've never thought that before watching a fight, though. Look at that asshole. Funny, man. You made me laugh. Nice one, Danny. All right. Let's go to topic 2, the PFL World Tournament. So they had PFL World Tournament 8, 9, and 10. We got 8 new champions to their new format where they start with 8 fighters per weight class. Only 3 fights, right? Quarterfinals, semifinals, finals. Not a milli being doled out from their checkbooks, but 500K. One less fight. And they got these champion series. It's confusing. Fabian Edwards defeated Dalton Rasta. Goes, what was your reaction to that one, man? That was the main event. That was the big one of the night.
Yeah, it's crazy, the way he did it. And obviously, Fabian gets compared to his brother so much. But in this particular fight, I've really been impressed with actually this run of Fabian Edwards, just the patience that he has in fights, waiting for that right moment. And when he sees it, he strikes. And I think he's got a good thing going on here in PFL. He's done an excellent job of kind of staying relevant, keeping up with fights. He's charismatic in interviews, and I think he's actually starting to close the gap on his brother a little bit in popularity. So I think a lot of Fabian Edwards, and I'm hoping that he can continue this, and it's not just maybe the run of guys that he's faced, because I think Fabian Edwards could be something bigger, and the PFL needs to really invest in some of these guys.
Danny, you were there live for the event. So what were your thoughts on this main event? Good crowd. Were they into that KO?
Oh yeah, they were. It was a spectacular knockout, and also just shout out to both these guys, specifically Dalton. I know that he lost, but he really sold the fight. He was talking a lot of trash. I don't know how much he believes in it. I do think it was a lot in. I mean, sure, there's a little something there in terms of rivalry, but I think he kind of understood his role and had no problem playing the heel and the antagonist and really selling the fight. And to be honest, out of last week, that was, I think, outside of maybe I would say that was like the biggest fight of the week, including the UFC fights, and the fight that I was looking forward to the most. So he did a spectacular job at selling that. Obviously, Fabian was a good dance partner, and then the fight delivered. It was a good fight, and then the knockout was beautiful from Fabian. And I do agree with Goes. I think he's got a lot of potential. This is a guy that's fought some good names, has beaten Gegard Mousasi, Lyoto Machida, so he's got a little bit of that history already added to his record. Obviously, brother to Leon Edwards, and now he's got a belt, a nice win streak. And he should be in his prime, right, with just 32 years of age. So, yeah, he looked great. I think the PFL has a solid fighter here, and let's see how that middleweight division shakes out. I think that's probably one of the more interesting things happening at PFL right now.
Fada, let's turn the page. You can give us your reaction as well to that win.
Sorry to interrupt, Gigi. I'm so sorry. Crazy. I don't even know if to call it a stat, but the same exact kick he finished Dalton Rossa with a day prior, August 20th, because that was August 21st, 3 years before. Leon Edwards did the same thing to Kamaru Usman. Now, the circumstances were a little bit different, but both of them were losing championship fights, and then they end the fight with the same head kick. Pretty crazy, pretty wild. Yeah. MMA works in mysterious ways sometimes.
It sure does. All right, so Fada, we'll get your reaction to that, and then turning the page, I'm going to make you a matchmaker now that Fabian Edwards has gotten past Dakota Ditcheva's Boo. What do you think of the Van Steenis matchup in 2026? That looks pretty good right now, huh?
Well, yeah, look, this is a momentum sport. I when I was doing overreaction time last week, I was asked if I thought Lerone Murphy should be next in line, and I said when I look at kind of like the rankings and the resume and stuff, I felt Movsar is the guy, but then I'm like, Movsar's injured. Nobody knows how long he's going to be back. Lerone just got a spectacular knockout. You kind of go with the momentum, right? And PFL needed moments like that. So I think you're Fabian Edwards, you go out there and you deliver a moment like that. I don't have a problem with them giving him the rematch with Van Steenis, considering that he lost. I just think Eblen was winning that fight against Costello, ends up getting shock submitted at the end. That's the way to go, in my opinion, but I wouldn't be mad if they give it to Fabian, just because, like I said, this is a momentum sport. And I guess it depends how quickly they book it. I think that's the key here. If this isn't a relatively quick kind of booking within the next maybe 4 months or so, at least announcement, then right, maybe they should go the Eblen route. Like if they're going to drag this out, then go Eblen. But if they are willing to ride that momentum from the moment, like we talked about, same head kick as his brother Leon and whatnot, and the moment for Fabian and stuff, then sure. But I wouldn't be mad if he got it, but I still think Eblen should get it.
Okay, and Danny, if they do go with Eblen, sorry, did I say that right? Eblen. If they don't go with Eblen and they go with Van Steenis and Edwards, what would you do with Eblen? Does he just sit out and wait out of respect? He was undefeated, had title defenses, or do you maybe give him a tune-up fight? No disrespect to the next opponent, but you know what I'm saying. Just something to keep him busy, something to keep his name out there, something where you drag people from the outside that are watching and build the matchup when they do the face-offs. After either party's fight.
Yeah, I do think. I do think that Edwards versus Van Steenis is the right move. Both guys coming off incredible finishes. There's a lot of momentum. There's history as well. You got to make that fight. And I do believe the plan from hearing Van Steenis and the PFL is to make that fight later this year. So it'll happen fairly soon. We'll see how ready Fabian is. Van Steenis is in great shape, healthy. But Fabian did have a shoulder injury, and at the post-fight presser, and by the way, I was there present, he had ice wrapped on his shoulder, and he had hurt his shoulder in the second round. So hopefully it's nothing too bad, and he's able to fight at the end of the year. And as far as Evelyn, Impa Kasanganay won that same night, and he is interested in fighting him. I know they got history. What Evelyn is maybe 2-0 against him, or is it just one?
I know it's at least one, but I don't
1-0,
know.
1-0.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a rematch. I think it makes sense. Evelyn coming off a loss, Impa coming off a win. Impa always being a former champion, so I don't think it's a big step down for Evelyn. I know a lot of people have voted for him to get the immediate rematch, but I'm fine with him getting one more fight and then taking on the winner should he get past someone like Impa.
PFL should have fun with that one, where they wear their gear, right? But then as they take off their, what is it? Takedown is the name of the apparel?
Or I believe so. I'm not
sure. They take it off. One guy's ATT, the other one's Combat Hard Knocks. No, wait, what do they have? It's Kill Cliff.
Yeah.
Switched it so many times. Bring back that little rivalry there. That'd be fun. I think that's what PFL should do, is bring back some fun, man. Some of the fun ramps, pyrotechnics, whatever, but get noticed. But speaking of all that, did you like the revamped format? We had 3 weeks of finals versus one long night of finals, and 500K versus a milli, but I think less camps, less weight cuts for the fighters. What did you think of 2025 for PFL?
I enjoyed it. You know, I'm one of the guys that actually did enjoy the season. I thought it was different. It's how they stand out. But this wasn't bad, and I do like the fact that they kind of split that championship into multiple events. It just gave us more fights to watch, and the fights themselves actually delivered. You know, so maybe they didn't have some of the bigger names or the hype going in that they've had in previous years, but the fights themselves actually were fun. So I actually enjoyed this season.
I'd be remiss if I didn't congratulate Antonio Carlos Jr. for winning the light heavyweight title, and Oleg Popov for winning the heavyweight title as well that night. 3 title fights this past weekend. And yeah, that's the close of the tournaments. What about you, Fada? Did you enjoy what PFL did this season?
Yeah, I mean, a few people have stepped up big for them in terms of moments. That Jean and Fabian Edwards, and now we might get Liz Carmouche and Dakota Ditcheva. Like, there just seems to be a lot of excitement and buzz surrounding the results and the outcomes of the tournaments. And Alfie Davis, shout out to him as well, and his upset win. So, and we know that PFL have always thrived with their European cards, right? And they've got a lot of European talent that are doing big things. So I think they should do it is Edwards and Van Steenis, do that in London or the UK. You could go anywhere and everywhere with these people. Do the Ditcheva fight in the UK. Like, there's a lot that they could do internationally where their cards have historically done really, really well with the markets that they've been going after. So I think it's probably best and most exciting times for PFL. And look, anytime PFL can pick up the pacing, whether in the night itself or tournament format, I'm happy.
Yeah, and ask Danny about that. In fact, I'll ask Danny about that. You've been to a few events this year, but how would you grade this season for PFL as a whole, and did you enjoy the new format?
It's been a weird year for the PFL because they've done really good things, but I think there's also been equally bad things as well. So I feel like in a way they kind of cancel each other out in terms of momentum. But I do got to say they finished off the year quite well in terms of like their season. Some good finishes, good results as well for the promotion. So definitely some good PR there. I love that they split the championship fights among the different cards because it gives a little bit more meat to these different events. And also covering, 6 title fights, 6 potentially 5-round fights. It was just brutal. Brutal. And yeah, I think I both as a journalist and also as a fan, as a consumer, like, yeah, championship fights are great, but watching 6 back-to-back title fights, that's a lot, and that's a big commitment as well in terms of your attention span. So yeah, I think that was a big home run, allowing elbows, cutting the season a little shorter. All in all, I think they have made their product better over the year. I think there are still some things to work on, but all in all, I think this was a solid year for the PFL.
Give it a grade though.
B-.
Goes, what's your grade? And would you change your name for 50K for 5 years to Alfie Garcia?
50K is not enough for me. No,
Okay.
I would give it a.
What about Waldo Garcia? That kind of sounds good, no?
Waldo Garcia is not bad, and I would play up the Where's Waldo. I'd be wearing stripes every week, showing up late. But grade wise, I think B- is probably spot on. That's a good one.
Okay. How about you, Fada? Let's hear a grade from you.
I'll be a little bit more generous and I'll give it a B.
A B. Okay. All right. I will give it a. Yeah, I think I'm with you, Fada. A B. All right. I like that. Why the minus, guys? Anyway, yeah, well, I mean, what needed to happen to give it a B?
Bro, they let go of the top tier talent they picked up. Patchy, Pitbull, Aaron Pico.
I get that made it go from an A to a B, but I'm just curious about that minus, that little minus.
Yeah. I mean, what can I say? Me and Goes are very
These guys crack me up, Fada. The other day I asked them something about a card and I heard 7.3, 8.2. I'm like,
yeah, we're very precise. We're very accurate individuals.
All right. What would you like to see different goes in 2026 for the PFL?
Different is you need to focus on some of these up and comers and really make stars out of them, and don't spend as much money on people that you're only going to have as ambassadors or one fight every 2 years. Spread that money out and get some veterans where you can make every card matter, right? And every card make us want to watch.
Fada, any advice for the PFL for 2026?
I could say they could work a little bit more on their US-based card, but I like what they're doing with the European cards and what I alluded to earlier with all the kind of the stars that have come out from these tournaments, the Alfie Davis, the Fabian Edwards and stuff. I think they should continue capitalizing on those markets, especially when they're going to cities that the UFC or countries that the UFC haven't been to before or haven't been to in a very long time. Like even in France, they're going to different cities outside of Paris, like Lyon and stuff. So I like that they're doing that. It gives them their own kind of niche. So I'd like to see more of that, and there's no better time for them to continue capitalizing on that than after the results of these tournaments.
You stole a little bit of my thunder. I was going to say the same thing. I couldn't believe the UFC hadn't been to Chicago in 6 years. I think earlier this year they went to Seattle. They hadn't been there in 10. PFL, focus on that, like she said. And maybe like when you have a star like Pinedo, get to Lima, Peru. You know, like go to where you know you can fill the stadium based off the stars that you have. Danny, any advice for them in 2026?
Just focus on making good fights. They have a good enough roster where they can make some fun cards. And I think sometimes they get lost in trying to match the UFC or trying to really get really different. But at the end of the day, what you're selling is MMA. So just focus on making good MMA. We don't need Ray Schremer to sing in between fights or have Russell Brand there present at the event. Like, cut all that bullshit. Just make good fights and have appropriate pacing, and people will tune in.
Fair enough. All right, folks, if you have any questions, we're going to do a Q&A at the end. Get them in. I've highlighted a few, but now's a good time for a question or a comment. We'll try and squeeze it in towards the end of the show. We won't be here next Monday, by the way, because of Labor Day, a big holiday in the United States, but we'll try and round up one or two of us to maybe do a Q&A. Don't hold us to that. All right, let's get to some fight bookings that took place aside from the UFC and PFL results. The big one goes RDR versus Fluffy, man. React to that, because I mean, this middleweight division is really, really exciting, but I think maybe unfairly we were saying, hey, Mafam and Boadio, which is a great fight, by the way. We were already like, should we not? Because of the other two guys and the outstanding performances they had.
Yeah, this is one where I love it and I hate it. I love it because it's going to be a great fight. I hate it because when you look at both fighters, you kind of want them both to possibly challenge Hamzat at some point, because they have different styles that can make it very interesting. But I think it's a solid matchup, and it's got pressure on the Swarsome, right? Because you have to not only win, but you need to look good, right? Because you might be able to surpass someone if you put on a really good performance.
Yeah. Danny, your thoughts on RDR and Hernandez? October 18th, UFC Vancouver. So not much rest time for these guys. 5 rounds. And as Goes was talking, I thought maybe the UFC is not protecting Hamzat, but just kind of getting someone out of the way for him, because he's so popular. This might be their next biggest star.
Maybe. I also kind of took it as, and I want to get you guys' opinion on it, but does this mean that Borralho versus Imavov is kind of now, a title eliminator, and the
Gotta
winner
be.
gets the opportunity just because like of the timeline, like they are fighting sooner. You would just, I don't know, if you get Hamzat there to headline like the final pay-per-view of the year, that'd be a good way to finish off the year. And I don't know, October kind of seems like a big turnaround. I'm not sure, but yeah, this is an awesome fight. I absolutely love it. It is a love-hate relationship, as Goes mentioned, because you kind of want to see both guys fight Hamzat, because I do feel like they both offer interesting things for him. But we're gonna have to get rid of one of them, obviously, because somebody has to lose. So yeah, great fight, but part of me a little bit upset that it's being made.
Somebody does have to lose, Danny. Who do you think is going to lose? Early lean.
Ooh, I think I'm big on Fluffy, man. I think, and shout out to George and Goes. You guys have been on the Fluffy train for a while now, and that's one of the reasons why
we eat healthy too.
Huh?
We eat healthy too.
Oh, because he's not talking about meeting Gabriel.
I see a lot
about
of
Anthony Hernandez.
You guys mix it up with ceviche and stuff, so it's like a 50-50.
I thought he was comparing me to I thought he was comparing me to Gabriel Iglesias. So I was like, I know I gained some weight, but I'm not like that dude.
Nah, I think the world of Fluffy Hernandez, man. I do think he's got what it takes to become champion. Super impressed with what I saw against Dolitze, the way he just kind of tossed him. Get out of here. I'm going in the top 10 or in the top 5 or whatever. Yeah, I'm going to go Fluffy on this one.
Goes early lean. I didn't get yours.
Damn it. I was hoping Farah's probably got something to say about it, don't you, Farah?
Farah, you have a reaction to the fight and an early lean while Goes gets off that fence?
My reaction to the fight has actually made me think that maybe Imavov Borralho is not a clear-cut number one contender fight, and I think it's like a 4-man race. That's what that's the impression I got, because I thought, I mean, I've mentioned last week and at SBC, or the last time I was on, that Imavov was not happy with me even talking about the other guys, but apparently I had a bit of a point, because now look at the like, I get at the time when I asked the question was before Fluffy fought Dolitze, and it was right after RDR edged out Whitaker. But now, obviously, RDR wins or Fluffy wins. That's a pretty good win to have on your resume onto a potential title shot. So I think now it's a 4-man race. When previously I kind of agreed with Imavov, I felt like his fight with Borralho, especially if Imavov won, should have been a number one contender fight. But now I just don't really know where the UFC's at, because the fights are pretty close to each other. And I don't know, like, if Hamzat wanted to make a quick turnaround, I figured it would have been in Abu Dhabi, because I know how badly they want him to compete there. Him on the December pay-per-view card, for him personally, unless the UFC are really scrambling for a big fight, I can just see him fighting at the beginning of next year against whoever looks the most impressive out of these two equations.
How do you say "I'm not so crazy now"? Am I in French?
I will not do that. Let's keep this in English. But no,
I don't like it when people get out of line with our female reporter. Man, we protect our female reporter over here.
No, but I understand.
Is legit.
You can use AI or Google Translate. Don't worry about it.
I understood where he was coming from, because at the time of the question, it was literally before Fluffy had fought Dolitze, and Fluffy usually looks pretty impressive when he wins, but he obviously impressed everybody. RDR outlasted Whitaker. It was a close fight that some people felt like Whitaker won. So at the time of the question, perhaps, but now it just seems like the narrative can change, because October 18th for Vancouver? That's not too far away. That's about a month after the main event in Paris. So I'm not quite sure what the UFC is thinking. I think it's just going to come down to, and RDR and Fluffy, I think that fight's going to be pretty wild. I think whoever wins that is going to win in probably spectacular fashion.
Goes Font. Rob Font is facing Raul Rosas Jr. at no.
Wait. Ghost thought he was getting off the hook. Ghost thought he was getting off the hook. What's your pick, Ghost?
Early lean, Goes. You can always change it.
All right, early lean. I think if Fluffy plays RDR's game, it's going to be trouble for him. But if he stays away from him and stupid George, early lean RDR.
George, it was Danny. I was moving on to Font and Rosas Jr.
Yeah, but we're running short on time now.
All right. Rosas and Font, Noche UFC. You like this matchup, Goes?
I do, but I don't like it for Raul Rosas. Look, Font's very underrated. And how many times have we seen this where they've tried to kind of give him an up-and-comer like Adrian Yanez or Kyler Phillips? It is not played in the favor of the matchmakers. Font has been able to dispatch these guys. And I would say of those two names that we just brought up, if you add in Raul Rosas Jr., I feel like he's still maybe even a step behind those guys. So like, I don't know what the thinking is here. I think this is a tough fight for Raul Rosas Jr. Luckily, he is showing a lot of improvement from fight to fight, but Font is pretty stable in what he can bring to the game. And I think working with Barras has helped him a lot too. So I like it, but I don't like it for Rosas.
All right, you asked the thinking here, Danny. I think it has to do with there's not many Mexicans on the card, right?
Yeah, this Noche UFC lineup has really disappointed, and I believe it was on the last SBC episode or even the one before that. I kind of brought this up, and I was complaining about it. One of the names that I mentioned among
Loopy.
Among Loopy
yeah.
and Brandon and Alexa and Irene and all these names that are big and that are pioneers and that are not present. A name that I threw out there that has always been present was Raul Rosas. Like, you know, he's obviously a big name, and why isn't he on this card? But, you know, he got booked, so good for the UFC on that. And yes, a big step up. I mean, going from Terrence Mitchell to Ricky Turcios to Eric, I don't even know how to pronounce his name, Viz Morales, and now Rob Font. I mean, that is a big step up. I'm surprised they're making the step up right now. I don't know if it's the right time. He is just 20 years old, still like very young. But at some point, this had to come, right? Like at some point, he's got to test himself against the very best and see if he's among the top 15 fighters in the world. So, yeah, a big sort of measuring test for Raul Rosas here.
Fada Brian Battle got released by the UFC. Was that fair on their part? It was his third time missing weight. Were you surprised? Your thoughts?
Yes and no, because sometimes like we know that once the UFC get really frustrated with someone, we don't know what the behind the scenes conversations look like and stuff. When they really like a guy, there's some little bit more leeway. I don't know what the conversations with Brian were like behind the scenes, but so I'm not like crazy shocked. It's more shocking considering his record in the UFC. Obviously, he had a great winning record. What was it, like 7-1 or 8-1 or something like that? Ultimate Fighter winner. We know how much Dana loves that show, but seems like matchmakers probably really fed up of the weight miss, especially it was a weight class above as well. So not a good look. Yeah, I think it's hard. And that part is kind of what is even more shocking. And yeah, so yes and no. Yes, just because he's good and had a really good record, and no, because I know when the UFC are kind of angry with someone. Granted, he was not a main event or something like that, but maybe that's why. Maybe they don't value him as much as I thought they should. But yeah, unfortunate.
And when you move up, I mean, when you move up 15 pounds, I'd be pissed if he missed by 0.6 and he missed by 6 pounds. I mean, it was egregious, honestly, from his end. I wasn't shocked one bit. Goes Gervonta Davis, your boxing guy, versus Jake Paul exhibition. Just any quick thoughts on that, please?
I'm just not interested at all. Like, it's nothing against Jake Paul. Usually I end up tuning into those fights, but the size difference here is just so much, man. And I don't see what we're accomplishing here. It's not going to make sense. I think it's one of those where if Jake Paul just makes it to the bell, it's another victory.
Yeah. And that's exactly it. In an exhibition, there won't be a winner or a loser, and they won't define the weights. It's everyone's making a ton of money. That's all we can say. All right, and then Figueiredo versus Jackson in UFC Rio on October 11th. Danny, you like this matchup? I thought we were kind of done with the Figgy train, but I guess there's still a little bit left in him.
Yeah, I think they're obviously trying to put over Jackson here. I mean, that'd be a big win over a former champion. But, you know, it is in Brazil, and Figgy, I can see him kind of stepping up for that card since it's in his home country. So, yeah, fun fight. I absolutely love it. And this fight is a perfect example why the bantamweight division is so much fun, right? Like, you can just pick anybody in the top 15 and you have a fantastic fight.
Kevin Holland versus Mike Malott. We don't have too much time to get into it. I'll just tell you guys, Goes and I will be interviewing Mike Malott this week. Check it out. They fight UFC Vancouver on October 18th. That's the same card headline by Reiner de Ritter and Anthony Hernandez. Let's move on to the Q&A. I have a couple here. If you sneak them in quick, I'll try and get as many as we can. So, guys, let's be quick on these. How do you feel about Rampage's son's fiasco goes? The whole MMA community was on that ish.
It was very troubling. You know, like if you look at the timeline of everything that happened, he had a lot of time to kind of think this over, what was going to be the next move. And for him to arrive at that as his conclusion with all that time, that's a scary thing. What he did was scary. What was the scariest thing of all was, had people not intervene and pulled him off, I don't know that he stops. There wasn't anything within him that said, hey, this has gone too far. That's a scary thing to happen.
No doubt, man. I didn't like it one bit. I'm glad Rampage put out that statement. Sounds like he's not too pleased with his son. All right, moving on. And that was from 240s. Thank you, 240s, for that question. Anshul Jubilee's gas station Fada says, I like Aljo, but I think he's hit his ceiling at featherweight. Agree or disagree?
I'm not ready to say that yet. I feel like his game plan for Ortega was going to look like this anyway. Why would you risk? He did take him down like 3 times, I think. But you don't want to spend too much time in Ortega's guard because he's dangerous there. And I think when he saw like the lack of fire from Ortega on the feet, like not banging it out like he said, well, like he told Mike Bond he would do, he got more and more comfortable on the feet and just raced ahead and outstruck him. So I won't like judge him too much on that performance. He won the way he was supposed to win. I think no, I'm not ready to say that yet.
Danny, this comes from Karate Ted Tunes, and it'll also go into Ebon Craft. All right, these two guys kind of chimed in here. I'm gonna make it a question. Ortega looks too small for lightweight. He needs to lift weights. He looks very weak and slow. Would you agree with that? But here's another thing that was thrown out there, and then people started commenting. What would you think of Chandler versus Ortega at lightweight?
So the same thing was said about Ilia Topuria. Now look at him, lightweight champion. You know, he's too small for 155. Look, sure, there might be some truth to that in terms of Ortega, but what is the alternative? Sticking at featherweight where he can't make the weight, and when he fights, he looks lifeless and a shell of himself. He's done. He's absolutely done at 145 pounds. There is no future for him there. Not only that, but he's lost to like Volkanovski already. Like he's lost to like the top contenders. 155 is the only route. He might do well, he might not, but that's the only path that's left for him. And as far as Chandler matchup, yeah, I like it. It's a fun matchup. It's 2 big names, both coming off losses. Sure, why not? That's good matchmaking right there.
All right, here's some real good matchmaking as well. And I really like this one. And Jubilee's gas station chimes in again. Can't wait for Thad Jean versus Shamil Musayev. We were throwing out all those other matchups. I love me some Shamil Musayev. I think he's for real. And I hope we can see him fight this year. He's their last, I guess, playoffs champion, because this year is tournaments. And I think him and Thad Jean would be a lot of fun. But Musayev is tough, man. Really, really good Russian fighter that they have. This one is for Fada. What do you think of Ngannou's future with the PFL? Does he ever fight for them again? What are your thoughts there?
Tough to say. It seems like his focus is on boxing right now, and he wasn't too happy with Don Davis, I guess, airing the the PFL Africa thing and their differences and him not being there. I don't know how much of a rift it's going to end up being, but we all know that Ngannou does whatever is on his mind, and he's not afraid to go up against the brass. So I think right now his focus is on boxing. I don't think we see him compete in PFL at least anytime soon.
After hearing what Ngannou said, would you agree? I mean, he could have disliked what PFL decided to do, but still shown up. He's supposed to be the top dog for PFL Africa.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. I think he should have been there. He should have. And this is kind of like his thing, his initiative. I can understand him not being happy with it. That's totally fine. But I think he should have supported, showed up there and made sure that the second show looked different, at least. Like if you're not happy with the first edition, at least show up there, have some discussions, and try to make sure that the second one was better.
Last one here goes. I thought you might like this one. Elder Brad says, I haven't listened to MMA Junkie Radio in years. I don't like that part. Yeah, but he says, glad to see the boys are doing their thing. So we still are doing their thing Mondays and Thursdays. You can go straight to the website or your favorite podcast platform. Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all those. We're still there. We're still doing it. But Goes, nice comment, huh?
Well, I mean, this show, when it was created to kind of be like the third episode of the week. to kind of bridge the gap a little bit. So we have fun doing this, and we still do the show as well. And he asked about some of those callers, and I know most of them, and they're all still doing well.
And a lot of them are still MMA fans. And MMA fans, don't forget, you can tune in every week for Spinning Back Clique. It's usually noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. But pay attention. Until Dana White Contender Series is over, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. And it's the team, right? We come in with a new squad every week, giving you the best. Shout out to Danny. He puts the script together. He puts a lot of work into it. So he's been more of the organizer of the show. And Abby, behind the scenes, he does the graphic art. We don't give him enough love. It's always the panelist and the producer, but there's a lot of people behind the scenes making the show happen. All right, right now, tune us out, right? A like and a subscribe on the way out. Get that settled. And then check out the video that starts up now on MMA Junkie. It's the Dana White Contender Series weigh-ins. Great job, guys. And thank you all for listening. Go out and be a champion. We'll talk to you soon.